Joined now by Oklahoma Senator James Lankford. Senator Lankford, thank you for joining us this morning. I know you encouraged President Trump to move his rally away from Juneteenth, so it didn't fall on Juneteenth, now scheduled for next Saturday. But it comes as the Tulsa health director yesterday is warning against having the rally. I want to show the Tulsa World this morning. He's saying that he wishes the Trump rally would be postponed. Quote, a large indoor rally with 19 to 20,000 people is a huge risk factor today in Tulsa. I want to make sure we can keep everyone in that building safe, including the president. Is it time for the president to postpone that rally?
I do not believe so, actually. We've gone through phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. We continue to see hospitalizations decline, deaths decline in Oklahoma. We've seen a little bit of a bump in the last couple of days, I assume based on more people at restaurants, more people out and about shopping, some of the protests that have happened around Oklahoma. So we've seen some of those numbers come up a little bit, but our hospitalizations continue to decline. Our deaths continue to decline, and we encourage people that are high risk not to get involved in any location, whether that be a rally or other high risk locations for those. So high risk folks need to continue to be able to step back, and everybody needs to be able to take responsibility for their own health.
So how can you safely, though, have a rally with 19 to 20,000 people in the same place? Is everyone going to have to wear a mask? How can you social distance?
I don't know how they're going to handle that, actually, George. That'll be up to the city of Tulsa, the governor of Oklahoma, and the Trump team itself to be able to figure out how they want to be able to manage that. We've been through all 3 phases in Oklahoma. We are fully open again. We've seen 7 or 8 weeks now of declining numbers up until this last week. And so we're going to track that very, very carefully. But we're ahead of a lot of other parts of the country. We've actually had fewer total cases in Oklahoma than they've had deaths in other states. And so we're a little farther ahead than other parts of the country in trying to defeat coronavirus.
So you'll be going?
I will be attending. I absolutely will be.
Let's talk about police reform. Your colleague, Senator Tim Scott, is leading the effort. You're part of the task force trying to come up with a police reform package in the Senate. He's announced this morning that the president's going to have his executive order laying out his ideas on Tuesday. What should be in the executive order? What do you hope to achieve in the Senate? And can you find common ground with the House?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we absolutely have to be able to find common ground with the House. This is an issue that needs to be addressed, and it will and can be addressed on it. So the House is going to have their perspective. They've already put that out. The president's going to put out his proposals. The Senate Republicans will put out their proposals. We'll work together to be able to get things resolved. Our focus is on basic things like transparency, police records for employment records, making sure that future departments can see what's happening, body cameras, increasing not only the availability of body cameras, but the technology of those body cameras, making sure those body cameras actually stay on at critical moments. Trying to be able to work through if there's serious bodily injury or someone dies in police custody, getting all those records in on an FBI record. Right now, about 40% of the departments around the country do that. We'd like to be able to get that to every department around the country. So we increase that transparency, increasing training for things like mental health, de-escalation tactics, trying to be able to engage in things like recruiting, so that we have more African-American recruiters for law enforcement to make sure we're getting more African-American officers and helping them be able to get financially through the academy. And so we can get people actually engaged in the community. Anywhere where law enforcement doesn't match the ethnicity of the community, we need to engage to be able to increase that. And so we have great officers in every place. We do have a lot of terrific officers around the country who get incredibly frustrated when this kind of stuff happens. It's happened the past several times over and over and over again in some departments, but it puts a bad stain on those good cops when this happens with a bad cop. So just like you don't judge all protesters the same, the vast majority of protesters are peaceful and speaking out as they should be, with a few folks that are rioting. You can't judge all police officers the same. We've got to be able to get some help, though, to be able to make sure that we can help both with the training and in transparency.
What about a national ban on chokeholds?
Absolutely, we should have that. That is one of the things that we should have engaged in a long time ago. Many departments around the country have already banned chokeholds, and I think a lot of other departments are increasing that now. Some departments just didn't train for chokeholds and told their officers they can only do what they've been trained for. But this has been pretty clear. There's been a long-standing principle out there that is not needed for that situation. And there's been a consensus document that was done in 2017 by law enforcement around the country to say that that is not needed. So I think that's not an issue for us.
We are also seeing now efforts to rename military bases across the country. The Senate Armed Service Committee voted on that. This week, we've seen leading voices like General David Petraeus saying it's time to stop having military bases named after Confederate generals like Braxton Bragg. Is it time?
I do, actually. I think the right way to be able to do this is to be able to have a study, to be able to look at where the name come from, what do we need to have to be able to take a serious look at it, and then to be able to transition. There are lots of great leaders, military leaders that are around the country that are modern leaders that we can continue to be able to honor and continue to be able to put names forward. But I see it like schools. Every school has a name, and you want those children in that school to be able to learn about the founder of that school or the person that school is named after, and to be able to have them as a role model. You would have that on a military base as well. So if you have a military base that is named after someone that actually rebelled against the United States government, then you'd want to be able to go back and look at that name. It should be a pretty basic principle.
Senator Lankford, thanks for your time this morning.